Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rusty 78609. I'm just leaving the grocery store. Isn't that a surprise? But we're going to have a little fun this morning. I'm just killing time on the way home. No hurry, no hurry, no hurry. We'll go into the sun here for a second, and then I'll turn right here at this stop sign, and we'll be out of it. But what I wanted to talk about this morning, guys, is just plain old ignorance. How ignorant I was as a child and still am in a lot of ways. And ignorance is not to be confused with stupid or unintelligent. Ignorance just means that if you're ignorant of a certain fact, that means you don't know about it, okay? Ignorant is not to be confused with stupid, even though we do that all the time, that we say, well, those ignorant fools. Well, ignorant probably they are. But I grew up in the country, as you all know, on a farm 3 miles from a little bitty town. The largest town close to us was Beeville, Texas, about 32 miles, which we rarely, if ever, went to, because that was a major trip for us. But when you grow up on a farm like I did, I was isolated from all the city things or town things. I didn't learn to remember names of streets and directions and stuff. I mean, that was all new to me as I began to grow up, because somebody would say, you know, what street is such and such on? I had no clue. I mean, I would know that it was near the old elementary school, or it was near Ms. Brewer's house, or something like that, or it's close to Harvey Payne's grocery store, or whatever I came up with. But having said that, it didn't get any better as I got older, because after I graduated from high school, I mean, I was ignorant of so many things. It was embarrassing in a lot of ways. For example, here I was 17. I graduated at the age of 17, and but I didn't really know how to hold a knife and fork properly, because I mean, I held it like it was a hammer or whatever. You know, I mean, I held them like they were tools, which they are. But finally, one of my friend's mothers, while we were eating, or while I was eating with them, showed me how to properly hold a fork and knife and how to use them properly. And I remembered that, which is good. But other things that I didn't know anything about or was ignorant of, and a lot of people from the country were, they just never talk about it. But I don't see, in Kennedy, all the stores were one level, one floor, okay? And our high school, we did have a high school that was 2 levels, but, you know, I don't remember the rooms being numbered 1 for the first level or 2 for the second level. I just remember that Mrs. Popejoy's classroom was there, and Coach so-and-so's class was there. I don't even know if I ever knew the room number at all. So as time progressed, and I decided to go to college, and I know I've talked to you about this a few times or touched on it, I didn't even know anybody that had ever gone to college. All right, and here I was, a little older than most. I think I started college at the ripe old age of 22, and well, actually, I started earlier, but I didn't get much credit, and then I was in the Army for a while and then came back. But so I was a little older than most of the students, so to speak, and I didn't have hardly any money. But when I went to register, you know, I remember I just walked into Victoria College in Victoria, Texas. It was called the Junior College, and I said, you know, I want to go to college. And the girl said, well, that's wonderful. You need to go see the registrar. And she might as well have told me to go to Mars or Jupiter. I didn't know what a registrar was, but I finally worked my way through all of those things, and I overcame some of the barriers to me, and it was the jargon. And then when I finally did get registered and get into the college, they did have a college. It was 2 levels. So there were classrooms, 101 and 201 and all that stuff. And there was a lab and 302 or whatever. Anyway, I think it might have been a 3rd floor there too. I'm not sure. But anyway, I never knew, it never occurred to me that all rooms numbered 1 were on the 1st level and all rooms numbered 2 were on the 2nd level. But it finally dawned on me over a period of years. I mean, it made sense to me that 201 would be next to 101 horizontally. I didn't think vertically about things going up. But so those are just a few of the things that living in the country life. My parents were they were ignorant of a lot of things too, because my mother was the daughter of a family that was basically farming type. My father was the same, and so they brought their ignorances, or whatever you want to call it, to the family, and so we knew about as much as they did, and that's where we peaked. But the country life versus the city life was a totally different way of life. It was, because the kids in town knew how to play baseball. I knew how to play volleyball because we did have a rope tied between 2 trees, and we called it a volleyball net, and we did do that occasionally. But as far as baseball, nothing. I didn't know anything about that. I'm not going to go through the story of my Little League experience, because it's just, I mean, you won't believe how stupid I was. I knew I needed to get a glove, but I didn't know what kind of glove. I just needed to get a glove, and there was only one place to get them, and that was at Western Auto. And they had a few gloves, that's it. So I went in and got me a glove. I thought my mother had taken care of signing me up for a Little League, or I don't even know if I thought about it. All I know is I went to Little League practice the first day, and the coach told me I couldn't play, and I said, well, why not? And he said, well, you didn't sign up, or your parents didn't sign you up. And I thought, well, okay, so big deal. I'll take the glove back, and that'll be the end of that. But it all worked out, because I got to kiss Dana Berry behind the scout house while they were playing baseball. Yeah, we'd go back there and kiss. It was the kisses, though, that you just mash lips, lip mashers, no tongue, just smash lips. But yeah, but it had the same impact, or more, on me. But anyway, that's another story. Yeah, Dana Berry, bless her heart. I think she's deceased now. But yeah, she was cool. She liked me, and I liked her. That's enough said about that. But turning the clock on forward, it doesn't get any better, because when I did finally, I did pretty good in college. I made good grades because I was working my way through, and I was paying part of it. I had a little help from the government and other things, and yeah, I did okay. I went to a great university, St. Mary's University in San Antonio. It's a private school, and yeah, it was I found it enjoyable because the classroom sizes were small, and less than 20 students in a class, so you had a lot of personal interaction with the professor if you had a question. And did I have questions? All the time. But anyway, but I did graduate in accounting, and subsequently became a CPA. It took me about 2 years before I passed the CPA exam, because you can only sit for it twice a year, and I didn't sit for it the first year after graduation. I sat for it the following May, I think it was, and yeah, I finally passed that, which helped a lot. But before I did that, when I was when you become a senior at a university, particularly in the business area, accounting at that time, you got a lot of offers. They had people come there to interview starting in March, April, May, and picking the cream of the crop. And I'd done very well in accounting, so I was the cream of the crop in that field. And I got offers from Arthur Andersen, Pete Marwick, Seidman and Seidman, and places like that. And also got an offer from Texaco out of New York City. And so I got to fly to some places to do some interviews. Very, very interesting. I had never flown before. I don't think I'd ever seen a passenger airliner before. But the one interview I'll tell you about is I flew from San Antonio, Texas to Houston, and they paid my airfare. This was the Arthur Andersen interview. I think Arthur Andersen may be out of business now, but anyway. I flew to Houston from San Antonio. That was a real experience, and of course I wanted to sit by the window because I wanted to see all the stuff, and I did. And of course I got there early, which is me normally. That's the way I do things. On arrival, they had a car pick me up at the airport and take me downtown to One Shell Plaza, which is right downtown Houston, Texas, as I recall. Huge building, and the cab driver let me out, or whatever it was, the car that they'd arranged. I didn't know crap. If they hadn't picked me up at the airport, I'd still be standing there. You know what I mean? So, we arrive downtown. I get out. You know, the guy tells me this is One Shell Plaza, and so all you got to do is go in, blah, blah, blah. So I go in, but I didn't know, you know, I had the paperwork they'd sent me, you know, which was, all the information about the partners I was going to meet with, at what time, and so forth, and what floor they were on. And of course, by then I'd realized that the, floor 15 whatever is not on the first floor. So I get in the elevator, and I thought, well, when I went in, I saw that there was a place to eat breakfast or have a snack in the basement area. And I thought, well, I'm going to go up and locate their offices, then I'll come back down and go to that little breakfast area and get me a snack, because I was probably a full hour early. And so anyway, I go up in the elevator. It was probably 9 o'clock at that time, maybe 9:30. A little early. Wasn't that early in the morning, but the appointment for me wasn't until like 10:30 or 11, whatever. Anyway, so I go up. The elevator doors open, and guess what? They open into the office. I mean, when the elevator doors open, you're facing a secretary. You got me? So there I was with my little country butt staring her right in the face, not knowing what to say. And she said, well, could I help you? And I said, well, yes. And she said, do you have your, I told her I was there for an interview. She said, do you have your paperwork? I said, I got it right here. And she said, well, let me take a look at it. She did. She said, oh, okay, you appear to be a little early. And I said, well, yeah, I was thinking about going down and having some breakfast. She said, well, let's see what we can do. And so she made a few calls, and she said, well, we can go ahead and get the process started, so let's do it. And so, because the partners were there, and apparently they were impressed that I was early, but it wasn't intentionally. I got there it was all accidental, all right? So this was the beginning of the day. You go in and interview with a partner. They ask you a lot of questions about your background, what you're looking for out of life, a lot of interview type questions. And I had not prepped at all. This was my first interview for a job ever in my life. All right. I mean, I had not prepped at all. Every answer I gave was totally honest, straight off, as they asked. I mean, I didn't sugarcoat anything. If they asked me a question and I did, like this, he pointed out the window and said, here would be an area of the town that, because you could see all over Houston. And he said, this is an area of the city that's a nice section of town, blah, blah, blah. And I guess so. But I said, I really don't like large cities all that much. Maybe there's some place in the suburb that I can find a home. We chatted back and forth. And then he hands me off to another partner and another partner and another partner. And then around 11:30 or so, lunchtime, they got me to go. We got together, 4 of us, and we went to a country club. I want to say Memorial Country Club in Houston, but I could be wrong. But it was fancy as hell. I had never been in a country club in my life. I mean, of course, and I had on a suit that, well, it was a good suit. I mean, I did have on a dark suit and, white shirt, dark tie, the lace-up shoes. I mean, I knew that drill because we had a professor at St. Mary's that drilled that into our head. If you're going to be in business, look like it. And so, I did, even though I didn't know anything about manners or not really manners so much, but about using certain utensils and ordering drinks and shit like that. But anyway, so we sit down at the table, and the guy orders. The waiter comes up and says, "What will you have?" And they wanted to take our drink order. And these guys ordered, one guy ordered a brandy, one guy ordered something else, and something else. And I didn't know any of those drinks. I had never heard of them. I had never even heard of brandy in my life. So I thought, well, that's cute. I'll get that. I said, I'll just have some brandy, be fine. Well, I didn't know what straight brandy tasted like. Well, I found out. But be that as it may. So here they bring this glass that looks like it'll hold a quart, and in the bottom of it has about 2 ounces of brandy. And this guy beside me, he kind of swirls it around, and he smells it. And so I thought, well, shit, I'll do the same thing. You know, when in Rome. So I swirled it around, smelled it. It smelled like crap to me. It didn't smell like beer. And anyway, he took a little sip. We chatted, and I took a little sip, and I thought, my God, what have I drank? Gasoline? And so the meal went, you know, we ordered our food. You know, I mean, I just kind of followed the line on the food. I just kind of ordered whatever they did, some kind of steak, I'm sure. And we had knives and forks on both sides of the plate. We had enough utensils there for a family of 10 on each plate or each setting. So I just, you know, I remember a lady had told me one time, said, look, if you're ever out eating somewhere, I think it was the lady that helped me learn how to use a knife and fork. She said, just, you know, start from the outside and work in, or watch the other people and see what they use. And so that's pretty much what I did, and I got through that drill okay. I mean, I guess they thought I had some couth, but I didn't. And so anyway, we go back to the office, go to 2 more interviews, and then I end up in the senior partner's office for the final interview of the day. And we look out over the city, and of course, at this time, you know, they either make you an offer or they put you back on the plane, and that's the end of the interview. But anyway, he chatted with me a minute, and then we go to the window drill again. And he said, you see this part of Houston? I said, yeah. I said, well, that's where, he said, that's where our people live. Okay, our people, you understand? You know, it was like I was going back in the Army again, our people, okay? But anyway, so I wasn't really all fired up about living in Houston at all, and I was working at a local firm in San Antonio, Texas, a local CPA firm called Rackay and Harris, and but, you know, they couldn't match the price that these people were willing to pay me. At that time, believe it or not, this was in 1972, and they offered me $1,175 a month. You know, I mean, that was almost double what I would have been making at Rackay and Harris, the little local firm, almost exact or pretty close to double. So, I mean, I almost fell over when he told me the amount. And you know, I said, well, let me think about it. I got to go back, and I've got some more interviews. He said, yeah, I understand that. And so, but anyway, they confirmed that offer in writing a few days later, and that was the end of the interview process. But when I got back to San Antonio a couple of days later, the senior partner at the local firm I was working with, Robert Rackay, called me in, and he says, look, Rusty, well, he called me Floyd, that was my given name. But anyway, he said, look, Rusty, he said, you know, we know we can't match, you know, what these big companies are offering you, but if you'll tell us, you know, what where they're at, we'll see how close we can get to it. And when I told him, his face just went blank. He said, my God, it's that much now, huh? And I said, well, that's what they offered me. And he said, well, he said, we can get to within 150 a month of that. And that's he said, that's the best we can do. He said, or it'll start a war here in the office. So anyway, I ended up staying with the local firm in San Antonio and built me a new home and all the stuff that you normally do. And the way that was, and that's the story of that part of my life. And at that time, I was driving a Ford Maverick. I can't remember what year it was, but it was a Ford Maverick. It was a white one with a brown vinyl roof, and I moved up a few months later to a Monte Carlo. Boy, was that a car. But anyway, enough said about that, guys. Enjoy your day. I'm at the post office. Now, I got a lot of chores today. But anyway, thumbs up, carpe diem, adios, bye-bye. Buy anything you want, anytime. But if you think about it, use the link to Amazon products in the description of all of my videos. Why? Because I get a small commission. Doesn't cost you 1 penny. What else? Drink plenty of water. 3 or 4 quarts a day won't hurt you. And, you know, keep your health. You know, take deep breaths, stretch, walk. Stand guard at the door of your mind. But anyway, guys, just another little slice of my life, and pretty soon, if you keep all these pieces together, you can make a cake. Anyway, adios amigos, bye-bye.